Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the January workshop for Trader Vision. My name's Ed Carter. For any of you who don't know, I see a few names I don't recognize. I want to thank you for showing up on a Wednesday evening, and we'll see if we can't edumacate you, Robert, as you put it, and see what we can do here. I'm going to try very hard to keep this to an hour, and I think I'll be able to succeed. We'll see how it goes. It looks like most of the people are here. Let's kick it off. They can catch the first few minutes on video if they're not. So the first thing I want to do is I want to apologize. I'm not going to be able to do a full overview demonstration of version 2, but I will, contrary to what the slide says, I will be able to give us a sneak peek of a little bit of it. We had a little problem this afternoon, and it's the middle of the night for my programmer, and so I can't catch up with the other stuff, but there'll be a little bit of it here. I was asked to go over entering trades, and so I will do that. I will answer all of your questions if you have any, and then I'll go through some trades for Thursday. I've got several of them, and I'm not sure how many we'll get through, but I've got them ranked in the order that I like them, and we'll go through what we've got. Okay, any questions before we get started? Okay, I'll go ahead and let's flip over to screen sharing here. There we go. The first thing I want to go through here is I was asked to go through entering trades and specifically commissions for trades, and I'm not sure how much experience the user that asked for this has, but I will go through it in general, and if you have questions, just ask them. So for anybody who hasn't seen this, this is version 1 of Trader Vision 2020 right here. And the first thing you want to do is do setup. And in this case, because we're talking about commissions, you would do that under setup accounts. And you would select the account that you're interested in. You can have as many accounts as you want. Let's just look at this first one, which I've called test 2. When you set the account up, you give it a name. You enter the dollar amount that you want to have for your commissions, or if you don't have dollars per transaction, you can put in dollars per share. Some people have a penny a share or half a penny per share that they have. Some people also have a minimum, so they would have a dollars per transaction or dollars per share, but then also a minimum. You can enter that as well. So if you wanted to have 1 penny, you could do that. If you had a minimum of $7.99 for a trade, then it would calculate that out. It would charge $6.99 per transaction plus a penny per share, but it would be a minimum of $7.99. The shorting costs are another piece of the commission. It's the loan rate you pay. Let's just say 3% for almost. In fact, I don't know of any brokerage that doesn't charge on a 360-day year. And then the multiple requirement that you would have for your margin. That will vary by account and by broker, but mostly by account and how much of a risk they think you are. Pretty simple in my mind, but perhaps I didn't understand the question. They just asked me to go through commissions per trade. But that's all you would do, and you would either save the changes or cancel them, whatever you want to do. So that's how you would set up a trade or set up the commissions portion of a trade. Entering a trade then is fairly simple, and I'm going to go through several of these tonight, maybe we'll just do one of them live, and that would be pretty straightforward. But essentially, you would enter new, you would enter a ticker, and I just know one of the tickers from tonight is TRIP. You would enter a market bias, and these are things you would set up for yourself in the setup section. I've used SPY as my benchmark for my trades for this particular account. So SPY trending up, and in the short term, the SPY is above the 50 and rising. Long term, the candle on TRIP, well, let's pull that up. Looks like a doji to me. So we pop back here. Let's just move this over here. So the candle on this is a doji, and the pattern is a pullback within an RBB. Unfortunately, in version 1, you can only have one pattern. So I'm going to call this a pullback opportunity and enter in that it's a PBO in an RBB so that I have that recorded. This information is set up based on the account. So the max dollar loss to stop is how I want to do my position sizing. Your other option is to have the dollars per position. Let's just say that I want to do an entry here at 52.65, and I want my stop to be down here 51.65. My first target here is going to be, for this example, let's just say up here at 60.68, kind of filling this gap. And it tells me I can do 240 shares and stay under my $250 maximum loss if it's stopped out. But I know that that's going to be too big for this account. Just for argument's sake, let's do 100 shares. It's still going to be 10% of this small account. Okay, so that's basically what you need to do to make your decision on a position at this point. You've got a warning here. You can tell that it's yellow. That's based on the fact that for a doji, I've said that it's a medium risk, moderate risk for a long position. And it gives you that warning at the top. It also gives you a warning here. There's two of them there. This is 10% of the account. That's way too big. That's why it's red, and that's a major league warning there for you to tell you, whoa, don't be doing that. If this position was stopped out, I'd lose just under 110 bucks, which is 2%. If I hit my target, the first target, I'm going to make just under 800 bucks, and that's 15%. And that gives me, and that includes the commissions, by the way, and that gives me a 7.2 to 1 risk or reward to risk ratio, and that's a good trade for me. Now I would normally save this, but I've already got one saved for this trade. I don't want to save another, so I'm going to cancel it. But before I do that, are there any questions about entering a trade? There are other information here, like I can see that for this to break even, including commissions, I need to make 52.75. To meet my goal, which is based on the goals I set for this account, I need to get $55, which is a 4.46% return. The total cost of the trade is a little under 5,300 bucks. Any questions about that? I'm not sure the person that asked that question is here tonight, but they seem to be somewhat confused about how you would enter a trade. If I wanted to attach an image of the chart, I could do that. If I took a screenshot, I could attach it. In version 2, you'll be able to attach any number of files and any type of file. So an Excel spreadsheet or a PDF file or an image, whatever you want. Not seeing any questions. So I'm hoping that that's pretty straightforward. Okay. Yes, it is. But you can set your own predetermined choices. Let me just cancel this and go over here to setup. So for example, for long-term and short-term biases, you can decide what you want. If I didn't want to use SPY, I could, add something else in there. I put a new one in based on whatever I want. So, sure, John, I'll get to that here in a minute. So, if I think, for example, 8 EMA above 34 EMA is one that Rick uses, and for a long, that's going to be no risk, and for a short, that's going to be high risk. And I could save that. And so that's now one of my choices. If I go back here to trade view, one of my choices for short-term bias is now, 8 EMA above 34 EMA. So you could set that to anything you want. If you do your market bias checking off of, moving averages or off of, whatever. And perhaps you could, put in RSI or stochastics. If that's how you determine market bias, then that's what you put in there. Going through, Joan, for the recording, Joan has asked me to go through how to attach an image. So let's just take a screenshot here of this chart, capture it, let's save it. I need to give it a name. That's good enough, and let's save it in Documents, Trader Vision, Workshops. Let's save it there, save. And let's go back to Trader Vision then. And there's a button down here. It says Attach Image. You click that, and you get the pop-up box. So you just go to Workshops. That's the only image there. Click OK, and now that image has been attached, and there's a link that's been added to the trade. So anytime you want to come back to this trade, you'll be able to click that link, and it opened in another window, but it opened up that image for you. That way you can go back and review the trade and see the image of the chart that you had. And of course you could have notes on the chart, but you've got notes as well in the trade record. Okay, Joan, is that pretty clear? Yeah, no problem. Glad to do it. I see some people typing, so I'll just hold on. And I apologize if I'm... Could I please go through that again? Sure. The image capture that I did, I'm using Jing, which maybe if I pull it over here you can see it. So I'm using Jing. I just captured an image. Jing is free. And then I saved it. I don't need to go through that process again, but you click save and you can go ahead and give it a name and save it. Once that's done, you open up Trader Vision and you click Attach Image, and then it wants you to go to Workshops here. You just find it again wherever you saved it, select that file and click Open, and it attaches a link to your trade that you can then open later. Anytime you come back to this trade, you click that link and it opens that image up, whatever that image is. Max, the question that Max asked is, the images are stored as links so that the actual image directory is lost within Trader Vision will the bring. Yeah, it's the both the image and the link is stored within the trade database, but the image is stored with in a directory along with the database as well. Um, so in other words, it makes a copy of it. So the place that I stored it when I took the image, that's one location. But when I attach it to this trade, Trader Vision makes a copy of that image and moves it into a chart images subdirectory within Trader Vision's data directory. So both the image and the link are stored within Trader Vision's data area. And so if you were to delete it off of its original location, um, that it would still be stored within Trader Vision. You could delete it, but you'd have to go into the Trader Vision and delete that directory or delete that file out of that directory there. Tyler, Trader Vision is desktop based, so this is running on my own machine. In version 2, we will be doing some web-based backup if you elect to do so. But for the most part, this is a desktop software. We've talked about at some point possibly going to a web-based tool, but for now, it is running on your own machine. Bill asks, what's the best way to back up your computer for TV 2020? Well, you can use the backup function. Let's not save that. You can use the backup and restore function, and it will back up your entire database. You have options as to how you want to do it. I just use the SQL file, but you can back it up in different manners, but that's the way I would do it. You can also export the entire database if you would like to, and you have a whole bunch of options. Excuse me just a sec. Oh boy. You have a whole bunch of options as to what format you want to do there. That would be a second way of kind of doing a backup, because you can then import it as well. But the best way to do it is a backup and restore, which does a SQL database store. Does that answer, Bill? Does that get your question there, I think? Okay, great. And so that's a local backup, although frankly you could back it up to a a Dropbox or any place you wanted to, if you wanted to back it up to a web-based location. And then version 2 will set it up so that you can actually just there we go. You can actually just set it up to do a scheduled backup. Yeah, Carbonite would work fine for you. Tyler, there's lots of support, up to and including I'll do remote support to your computer if you would like. But there are an entire library of both videos, including tonight's video will be uploaded there, as well as a couple dozen. You click the manual button, or you can get there directly from the website, and it takes you to the tutorials page of the website. You have written guides, you have video tutorials that Doug recorded. You have a free trial video series that I've recorded, which are very similar in nature, but more focused towards doing the free trial and aspects of that. And then you have all of our workshops here recorded as well. So you have all those things, and of course you can access that from the website. Let's see, products, Trader Vision tutorial, or like I said, just click that manual button within Trader Vision at the top. If you have a support request, you click the support button and you can enter a support request. You can also just send an email to support at TraderVision 2020. Okay. Uh, let's see. I guess rather before we go on into trades or open it up to questions, let me give you a brief sneak preview. Let's get rid of that and get rid of that and get rid of that. This is version 2, and specifically this is the same place that we were just looking at where we have a trade. And I'm going to enter a symbol here, TRIP was the last one we were looking at. You'll notice a few things that are different. One of them is that all of this stuff up in the trade description area is self-populated. And some of it's not working right now, but you can get the flavor from this. For example, it's, looking at the long-term bias on TRIP is trending down, and so it's giving me a warning. The moving average relationship between the 8 EMA and the 34 EMA is trending up, so that's a bullish sign. I go through scanning, and it automatically scans all of the patterns that I have included, and basically it's all the major patterns. And it goes through and says which ones does this qualify for, and there are a whole list of them. It's a rounded bottom breakout, it's a bullish wedge, it's a bullish higher low and higher high, etc. It does the same thing for short-term bias. Again, this is not working at the moment. We had a little problem this afternoon. It does the same thing for short-term bias based on the 5 SMA. For some reason, that's what I have set up here. It goes through and looks at the candle signals. In this case, today's candle was a bullish hammer. It shows the last handful of candles, and if you highlight that, it will show you the high, low, open, and close right there for that. It shows you the liquidity. That's based on my liquidity rules. My liquidity rules are a 63-day moving average of volume times the current close. So this is in millions of dollars, $131 million, $0.36 million of stock traded every day. So that tells me whether or not it has enough liquidity. Bill options will be a separate module, a separate product, if you will, that will be built as soon as I get this launched. I'm working as hard as I can. I've been answering that question for a long time, and I will get to it. All of the things that plus a bunch others that are yet to be implemented here. No, it's no problem. I answer that question so often that I apologize. I get a little ornery. But all of the conditions, such as what's the what price do you need to reach your break even, what's the cost of the trade, what's the current price, everything basically that is shown in yellow, as well as, or kind of tan, I guess it is the way I have it set up, will be listed here as the trade setup. So kind of a description of the trade, and its characteristics, as opposed to the setup conditions. Again, you can pick a template, and it will auto-populate some numbers for you here. Robert, yes. So Robert asked, to be clear, you're writing the app or you're working with those who are writing it? I'm the architect. I'm designing it. I'm approving every line of code, and I'm not writing the code, but I am, in a sense, writing the code, because I'm going through and debugging it, and I'm going through and revising it, and I'm going through, for example, all of the scans that were used is my code, all of the scans for signals and patterns and so forth. I'm not sure if that answers your question or not, but if you want the code, I'm your guy. Nobody else can do it or give it to you. Sure, the liquidity rule is my personal rule that we put in here, and that's a 63-day, which is 3 months, 21 days per trading month. So 3 months worth of trading, 63 days, average volume times the current the current closing price or last price if it's during the day, and that then tells you basically how many, hopefully millions of dollars worth of stock is being traded each day. And you'll be able to set a rule then to give yourself a warning. For me, I don't get into anything that doesn't trade $2 million worth of stock a day. But you can set your own rules as to what you want to do there. Roger, the programming language is Delphi, which is a little bit like Pascal. It's pretty close to being as fast as C, and it's very robust. It's been around since the 1980s. And if you care, it doesn't really matter. It's an executable on your machine, but if you care, it is we're using the RAD. Yeah, well, this is a little bit newer than that. We just upgraded, as a matter of fact, but nonetheless, yeah, this is, in fact, since version 1, yes, it's object-oriented, and it's that company's been sold, that language has been sold many, many times. Version 1 was developed in basically a open source version of Delphi, and we just went with the full Delphi to pick up a few libraries that we wanted for version 2. But if you then, let's just say that we decide we like this, and we're going to do an entry, let's just do a single entry with 2 exits or 2 targets and 1 stop, and it pre-populates this information for you. You can change anything, obviously, but it will pre-populate some numbers for you. And just, like I said, it's not complete today, but just like you'll have in version 1, but there's a little bit more flexibility. If you want to add as many entries or exits as you want, you can do that. And I guess I'll try to show it to you. I'm not sure it's going to work because of the problem we had this afternoon, but you'll notice we've got some buttons here, place order. If you have an MBT trading account, which is the brokerage that we're going to hook up with, you'll be able to post these orders and trade directly from TraderVision. And it will pop up as a package. So, if it's, two targets, 1 stop, and an entry, these will pop up as a group, and you can say, well, I want this to be a market order, I want it to be a limit order, or, whatever it is. You want it to be in force for the day, for good till canceled, buy at the open, whatever. The symbol, the quantity, you can then change. It's just based on whatever was populated there, and it fills in all this information. If you click send, it will, the brokerage is MBT Trading, which is Trade King, which is Allied Bank, which is kind of confusing, I understand. Here's the story on that. Trade King was the original partner that we talked to. Trade King bought MB Trading because MB Trading has superior technical software. So Trade King bought MB Trading, and almost immediately afterwards, Allied Bank, who decided they wanted to get into the brokerage world, bought Trade King. So as of this month, in fact, it may already be done, Allied Bank has concluded their purchase and done an integration of Trade King. MB Trading will be integrated then into the whole group supposedly by the end of the year. But because of the order in which they they purchased things and did things. They decided to do the brokerage integration to Allied Bank, and I'm not sure if the name's going to change or not. There was some talk that it would go to Allied Invest or something of that nature. And then, like I said, MB Trading will become part of it. But it is, an existing brokerage. It's nice. They have the same commission structure as Trade King, and it's pretty nice. $4.99 flat fee. So, at any rate, you can. I'm not going to send this order right now because I'm not sure I've even got. I'm not sure I've even got this hooked up at the moment. I'm not sure if this is my mouse or. Okay, there we go. Yeah, see, I've turned off my brokerage account at the moment, so I couldn't process that order anyway. But at any rate, it does work. We've done hundreds of tests with the trades, and it's just we need to finish up code. There are multiple sources of data for prices, which will be much more robust than version 1. Version 1, we used Yahoo Finance. Version 2 will be using the brokerage if you have the brokerage account, which will give us live data. We're also using a data source that gives us Yahoo, Google Finance, which I know there is no Google Finance, but they actually still record data, price data, and price history, and a few other sources all through this. You don't need to know the nuts and bolts behind it, but there will be many sources of data. BATS is a specific uh, exchange, and so that is built in, but we didn't specifically, purchase just BATS data. So MB Trading is live data. It's the entire market price, not just a slice, which is what BATS data would be. So if you're looking for the best, the current best price nationally for a stock, BATS would be pretty close, but it's not guaranteed to be the actual market price across all exchanges. And we'll have the best price across all exchanges. That's what we get from MB Trading. But also we'll get the entire market price from Yahoo as well as Google, as well as there's Apple's involved in this as well as some others. So there's a lot of integration going on behind the scenes to sync up data. But it's very fast. It's very, very clean. And I like what we've done at this point. So, and you'll notice on this, we've got, these will be a single icon with a number next to them by the time this is released. But this tells me here that I've got 2 bearish conditions and 2 bullish conditions for this symbol. So that's what we've got going here. And let's just pull up another symbol. What was some of the other? CYH, I guess was another one. So CYH today, this tells you what it was. It's got a symbol bias that is downtrending in the long term, and that makes sense since it's a rounded bottom breakout. It's a pullback within a rounded bottom breakout, and it's got a higher high and a higher low. It only does $38 million a day in stock. Looks like it was kind of a, not really anything, but kind of a doji type today. Okay, so that's kind of as much of an overview as I can give you today. But there's a lot of functions. The same way that you had in version 1, you'll have a dashboard and you'll have a goal view and performance view. There's an account manager, Of course, charts, which are greatly improved. You can have watch lists. If for some reason you want to have a web browser, you can do that. And you can locate these windows separately or together in the same window or in separate windows, drag them to a different monitor, whatever you want to do. Okay, let's back to this and let's go back over to slides. Okay, do we have any other questions before I go on and look at some trades for us today? Steve, no. The question is for the video, will both version 1 and version 2 be available once version 2 is released? And the answer is no. Version 2 will supersede version 1. I don't know why you would want version 1. You don't need to have the brokerage if that's what's worrying you. You can do it without the brokerage account. You won't have the place order buttons and so forth. Robert, the question that I get all the time, what's the ETA on a release and when it's ready? Um, I, you know, I'm burning out my programmer as it is. We're working 6 days a week and umpteen hours a day. So, as soon as I can get it ready, I'll get it tested and get it out. We're just not there yet. So it will get there, I promise you. Yeah, no, I understand. It's human nature, obvious question, and but that's the answer I'm giving. Any date I give you, I know will be a disappointment. I've already disappointed myself many times, so I'm trying. Yeah, slacker. I sleep, like 4 hours at a time kind of thing. So, any other questions? Steve, on your question, uh, why is there some reason that you would? Jay, pretty close. Not exact, but pretty close. We found a source that is fairly robust. No such thing, Mike. No such thing as a retired Marine. I'm a Marine. Um, yeah, we've got a source that's pretty close. It's not exactly real time, but it's darn close. And it's very a lot of work to get around that issue. Believe me, we're merging like five five different data streams in the background to be able to achieve that. I see some people typing here, so I'm going to hold on just a sec. Can you do the work with the program on one computer and access the same work from another computer? Uh, no, not currently. And um, if we were to go to a web-based application, that's basically the only reason that I would do it. But I, there's multiple technologies out there. So, for example, there's a tool called TeamViewer that I use for our remote support, and you can get TeamViewer for free, and you can set it up to have access to your computer from away, so from work, for example. So the answer would be yes under that setup, or a similar setup. There's lots of tools like TeamViewer, but it's not built in. That functionality is not built in per se to TraderVision Claude, but it is doable. John, is there an easy way to wipe out all your trade data and begin fresh? And the answer is yes. You can just delete your accounts, or you can delete groups of trades, which is again built into version 2. So yeah, you could do that if you want. Obviously, your history is an important thing for your performance reporting, but that will, you know, you can wipe it out if you want. Uh, Jay, I don't want to talk about the price structure tonight. Um, there's some discussion that we need to have as partners with Rick and Doug, but it'll be very affordable, and it's going to be going to a software as a service model to make it even cheaper. So that will help. Okay. I don't see anybody else typing right now. Pull a friend out of the ditch. Okay, well, I hope you didn't work out too hard because you'll get your workout there. Let me go on to some trades that I've set up here for us. Trip was the first one. Trip is the first one that I liked, and let's just flip on through here. There's the trade setup that I put together. You can see it's a J-hook and an RBB. I didn't give it a candle signal, but it is a doji. I was looking at a 53.50 entry, which is the breakout. I was looking at a 59.81 target. You might make that a little bit higher than that. And a stop loss about 52.47. And that gives us about 5.5 to 1. So let's flip over to the chart. Let you see what I'm looking at here. I think I've showed this already tonight. I wanted to show you that it matches up, but here's your J-hook run, and there's your J-hook. I'm calling it a J-hook because I'm not going to buy until it's broken out up here. That's what I'm looking at. And you notice how it matches up. The 100% matches up really nicely up here with that resistance line. I picked 59, which is down in here, I guess. But you could probably run on up into something like 60.78 as your target price. Let's delete this to get it out of the way. So you've got this beautiful gap to fill once you break out and get on up in here. Michael, yes, within reason. And the reason the question was, will earnings announcement dates be in version 2? And yes, it will, and we will auto-populate it, but it will only be as good as the data that's available to us. As you may know, earnings dates are notoriously not good, particularly far out. And so that data that our data source, we'll provide what we get from our data source, but it's only as good as the data they have. It's not like we're guaranteeing or contacting any of these companies. But it will auto-populate what data we have. So if they've published a date to our data source, then we will have it. And the brokerage is MB Trading, which, let me just do this. Whoops, what am I doing? Wrong screen. mbtrading.com is where you can find out about them. Okay, and let's put that back down. Let's close the window. There we go. So this trade that we were looking at here, I'm looking at a buying and the breakout up here at 53.50, and we're getting a nice run. At that point in time, I'm going to have my stop up in this area, and we're looking at a nice, 13% run or so up into the area of the 200, as well as this first resistance up in here after the gap. Okay, let's go on to the next trade that I had picked out. Okay, LTRPA, which is Liberty Trip Advisor. Again, a similar type of chart. And let's go to the trade. It's a pullback opportunity. This one's going to be a doji sandwich setup, or it's going to be a doji sandwich when we get in. It's a PBO and an RBB. We're looking at a 1780 entry, about a 2025 target, and a 1715 stop loss. So let's look at that on the chart. Back to screen sharing. So we've got this large candle and a doji. We're looking for it to be a doji sandwich or a doji continuation pattern. Bill, yes, you can. And in fact, it will. We will then sync up with that if you do your trading through their online application. It's called Desktop Pro is what they call their trading application. And if you enter your trades there, we will sync up with that. And that was quite a pain to do that as well, because that's not part of their API. We had to put that together ourselves. I lost my train of thought. So our breakouts here, and we're looking at a run up into this area, which is the 200, which is as well as this first resistance. And you'll note that it lines up very nicely with a 38.2% extension of this initial run. Our stop's in here pretty close, and we're looking to buy here, looking for that doji sandwich, doji continuation pattern. The reason that I don't choose resistance at this previous high is there's not a lot of action there. There is mostly the first real resistance is up here. Okay, back to the slides. That gives us about a little over 3 to 1 on the reward risk. Next one is CYH. Again, a similar type of pattern, different. Yeah, it's $4.99. Their options rates, yeah, you look it up there. I don't want to misquote anything. And this is just the first brokerage that we will go to. Depending on how well the partnership works out, we may go to other brokerages. There are some that just won't do, won't talk to us. Thinkorswim is the primary one, and I wish they would. They keep saying they want to, but they never get back to us. So the trade that I have on CYH, we're looking at, again, a pullback opportunity. It's a bullish best friend signal, or trader's best friend, some of you might call it. It's a PBO and an RBB. 675 entry, 739 and $10 as our targets, and 650 as our initial stop, giving us about a 2 to 1. If I flip over to the screen, and that was CYH, I guess. it up so you can see it. Pull it down so you can see it. Look at that big, beautiful open space. And, you know, you ought to be able to make some money in there. Even if you get in here and even if you hit resistance here at this first part, you got a 9% trade. And that's well worth looking at. So CYH is one I really like. If we get in here and we run clear up there, you know, that's ridiculous money. That's a 47% trade. So we're going to take some profits a long way. The first place we're going to take profits in is here at the 61.8 extension of this initial run. And then we'll take some more off up here at the first resistance, which will probably be the 200 average when we get there anyway. Okay, let's see if we can't whip through a few more of these. The next one is Dynegy Dyn. Again, a similar looking chart. I really like that pullback, first pullback after a RBB breakout. So again, a pullback opportunity in an RBB, looking for a 997 entry, 1113 or 1133 first target, 1194 second target, and a 940 stop, and that gives us a little over 2 to 1 to this first target. Overall, the trade would be a little over, almost 16%. So flip over to this, go to Dynegy, and you can see it's a similar looking chart. Looking for an entry here, expecting possible consolidation up here about 1067, but counting on a first major resistance up here about 1134, and then a second target up here about 20%, which is the 1192. Stop up here nice and tight, and that could be a very nice trade as well. Not seeing any questions. Let me flip back over and see if we can't do another couple. UCTT, this one's a little bit different. This one is a J-hook. Notice the 50s here, the 200s down here. We're way up here. Nice breakout level. It's a semiconductor, I think. We're looking at a J-hook. It would be a bullish doji sandwich when we get in. We're looking at a 1275 entry, a 1402 first target, 1481 second target, and a 1225 stop loss, just under 2 to 1 to the initial target. And I flip this over here. That was UCTT. Okay. So here's UCTT. You can see that we had this bullish harami, which is also a nice bullish candle. We got a doji today, and we're looking for the breakout, which would then be hopefully a doji sandwich or a doji continuation pattern on the breakout. We're looking at, since we're at all-time highs, we're just using the fibs of this run for our targets. And I believe I said that the first one was 1402, which is this 38.2 extension of this initial run. And then the 61.8 was the second target. You might get on up to the 100%, but I'm not counting on that. I'm just counting on the first two. If you got up to that 100%, you'd be clear up around 16 bucks. So if we're entering here, you're looking at 9-10% to the first, 14-15% to the second, and if you were to get all up to the 100% extension, you're up around 25.5%. Initial stop very tight, again, we're not entering here, we're entering on a breakout. Okay, Mike, thanks for coming. Let's flip back to the sides. I think I might have one more. Maxilinear, again, this is another J hook, and it's at the breakout level now. We're looking at a 25.14 entry, 27.46 first target, 28.91 second target, with a 24.05 initial stop, 1.87 reward to risk on that first target. So it's pretty close to 2, not quite. Flipping over here and going to Maxilinear. There you go. So there's your J hook. We're at all-time highs. We've been trending higher, but we've now got a breakout level. And I'm looking for a run similar to this. Similar, not the same, but similar. So I believe I can't go back and forth in my head. I believe the 38.2 is my first resistance. Again, this is all-time high. And probably 61.8 was the second. Yeah, you could get on a 100% extension, get up here, but I don't count on that. I count on the 38.2 and the 61.8. So on an entry up in here, you're looking at, 10%, something like that. Overall trade, probably if you get up to the 100, that probably averages out to 12%, something like that. Okay, I think that's what I had for this evening. That's it, 15 of 15. Do we have any other questions? You're welcome, John. Yeah, there's some trades that I really like there. I appreciate your time tonight. I wish I could have given you a full walkthrough of version 2, but like I said, we had a little problem this afternoon, and I can't quite solve it myself. I need to talk to my programmer, and he won't be available to me until about 1 a.m. or 1:30 a.m. Tyler, yes, it is exactly like a trade journal. Um, you've got, and this, I'm afraid you hadn't seen this before, but you've got notes, you record all your adjustments, and all of this stuff, the adjustments and what have you, are all recorded automatically in version 2. So if you launch those trades, it'll tell you you entered and give you an amount and a date, and you moved to stop and amount and a date, and you exited in the amount and a date, and so forth. So you have a complete record of your trades, as well as the comparison that you put it to. In this case, for this account, I'm comparing my benchmark as the SPY. So it'll record what the SPY did during your trades. And it'll tell you pretty much everything you want to know. And then you can then go to, no, let's not say. So in your performance view, it'll then give you performance statistics. So as opposed to a normal trade journal, which just shows you trade by trade, this will show you overall statistics across a whole range of different types of category. The candlestick signals, the patterns for longs and for shorts, the days of the week, and your pairs of market biases, and your long pairs of market biases, as well as your overall statistics. And then, of course, you decide you want to go back and look at, here's a closed trade. It pops up. This is a closed trade that was done back, I just changed the date, but I guess it was done back in September. So it is both a trade planning tool as well as a trade journal, as well as a goal planner, as well as uh, a trading dashboard. And in version 2, you'll be able to trade directly from the tool. And while in the current version we have somewhat limited uh, charting, in version 2 it's much better charting that will be pretty slick. So I don't want to go too far into the features of version 1 because version 2 is better in every category in every way. Okay, guys, we were able to keep it to an hour. I'm going to go ahead and close this thing off. I want to thank you again for coming. I appreciate your time on a Wednesday evening, and we'll look forward to seeing you here soon.